Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Today we have a very important video. Share this with everyone. This video is about how to use Tesla Full Self-Driving Beta properly. Now, I think it's really important. We've got probably more than 500,000 people using this across North America now. So I think it's really important now more than ever to understand how to use the software correctly. Philosophically, how should you think about this? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the key thing is, with Full Self-Driving Beta, you're driving the car. You're in control. You're ultimately responsible for everything the car does, and you need to make sure it drives and acts just like you would drive. Full self-driving, some people say, well, why is it called full self-driving? When you buy full self-driving, if you buy it with your car, you're buying all the updates. They don't want to keep the old updates around that don't drive as well. So you have to buy all the future updates. So they're really trying to get it to the point where it's going to completely drive itself. And you don't have to do anything. You can sit in the back seat, you can fall asleep, whatever. But sadly today, we're still quite a ways away from that point. Although it's getting very good, you're still driving, you're still in charge, and you need to correct it, whether it's by taking over or giving input, to make sure it drives exactly how you would drive. So let's go for a drive now. I've set a destination here at the beach. I'm going to put the car in drive. I'm going to expand the FSD beta visualization, and then I'm going to engage autopilot. And just like that, we're off. You can see a warning here. Please keep your hands on the wheel. So I always keep my hands on the wheel when using autopilot or FSD beta, just kind of like this. If you have to, take a drink or take a bite of something, then you can do that. You can lift your hand up for a second and do that. But keep your hand close to the wheel, ready to take over, so that if the car does anything wrong, it's just a fraction of a second before you're able to take over. All right, we're making a right turn now. And the car is also going to monitor you with the cabin camera to make sure you're not using your phone. So keep your eyes on the road, keep your phone down, and you'll have the best experience. It won't bug you, and you won't have as frequent of the steering wheel nags if you look directly at the road. The steering wheel nag is often the most challenging thing. You need to sort of apply a slight turning motion or give resistance to it as it's turning. But you don't want to hold it too tight, or it's going to disengage autopilot. So it's kind of like a Goldilocks thing. I'm so excited for when they get rid of this steering wheel nag. But right now you want to kind of give it a little bit of resistance, show it that you're there, kind of hold its hand, but don't turn it so hard that it disengages, because if you turn it too hard, it'll completely disengage. So I find that it's actually just more comfortable to rest your hand here. It makes me feel more safe and secure. Just, the flick of a wrist is all it takes if I see it doing something wrong, and I kind of just let it slip through my hands. So some people ask, well, why are you not holding it in the video? That's really just for demonstration purposes. So if I show you guys on YouTube, people would say, oh, well, he's touching the wheel, he's driving it. So just to show that it's really doing it itself, I still have my hand here ready to grab the wheel at any time. That's the key. It's not necessarily important to be touching the wheel, but you just want to be able to take over really quickly. So try and just keep your hand by the wheel so it's super easy. You don't need to be, touching it 100% of the time, but just as a safety precaution, we're going to be a little excessive, more than we need, and just sort of hold it like this. And you can see the car's been pretty much doing everything it needs to correctly. But if there were anything that I didn't like, I could take over at any time and just take control of the car. Or if there was something minor, like for example, it was in the wrong lane and I wanted to use the turn signal, or it started braking too hard, I could push the accelerator. Or if the speed was wrong, maybe it read the speed limit sign wrong, or it's just going too fast for my liking, I can scroll the scroll wheel up and down. You see that? So that's one thing. If you do one little notch down on the scroll wheel, it'll reduce the top speed by 1 mile per hour. one little notch up, and that raises the speed. Now, if you do a big, faster swipe, it'll actually bring the speed down by 5 miles an hour. See how it's slowing down now? And then as I slide it up, it's now increasing the speed. So this is the max speed that you're controlling. The system will still often try and slow down far below the max speed if it thinks it's appropriate due to, for example, the road curve or something like that. But this is what you're telling it, hey, I don't want you to go faster than this speed. So this is a great piece of control you have to tell the software how you want it to drive. If you push left and right on the right scroll wheel, you can go between assertive, average, and chill. So this is how you want it to drive. If I'm more laid back, I'm not in a hurry, I might be on chill. Whereas, okay, see how it was kind of lingering a little bit there? So I'm going to press the accelerator. So this is what I mean. It's kind of like a hybrid driving. The kind of idea is if the car already knows how to turn the wheel and push the pedals correctly, why do I need to do it? It's kind of superfluous, right? So the only input I really need to give is the input that differs from the system, where I disagree with what's coming out automatically, right? And I'm still supervising just fine, I'm just driving, but why do I have to move my hands and turn the wheel when the wheel already knows which way it needs to be turned? So that's just kind of how you think about it. And eventually, as the error rate gets down where you don't need to make any corrections, then they'll just remove the steering wheel entirely. But you can see here, I'm in control, I'm watching the road, I'm watching the other cars. Some of Tesla's critics say, hey, this is so good, this is already a level 4 system. And I agree with them, it is a lot like a level 4 system, but it's being used as a level 2 system. So you're still here, you're still watching. I think it's a stupid argument personally that level 2 systems have to be primitive. Why can't a level 2 system be advanced and do most of the driving task, but you're still supervising? Driver assistance systems should get better and better, the way this thing is constantly getting updated. So really, what FSD allows you to do is actually scan the area more widely and be more aware of your surroundings than you would have been otherwise. Because if you're just focused on staying within the lane lines, you can't necessarily scan and see, oh, someone's getting out of their door there. Or, oh, there's a pedestrian who's about to cross. Maybe the system did or didn't notice it. Or, oh, there's actually a truck barreling through the light and it doesn't look like it's going to stop, or whatever. I can actually broaden my focus, look around more, scan the area quickly, while, of course, still making sure I'm in the lane, while the car handles the basics of staying in the lane. And you notice that the car is making such safe, conservative driving choices. You know, this is how I drive, right? Like, this car is a lot of fun to drive. Like, look at that. That power there. So I just went up to 80 miles an hour. Don't tell the cops. So you can see why FSD is safer than me driving. Oh, there was a cop. Because I make choices like that. And there may be people who drive very safely. That's great if you're that kind of person. And then maybe the safety benefit of FSD is less for them. But your average driver sucks. And they won't admit how bad they suck because they're mostly driving in the car themselves. Nobody is judging them. So the choices this thing makes by comparison, they're safer, they're more conservative. It travels within a reasonable margin of the speed limit. I've told it to go about 10% over the speed limit. But it drives within a reasonable margin, it drives safely, it drives conservatively. If it sees a pedestrian, it lets them pass. It can see a cyclist coming up from behind me. Generally, the driving policy is much safer and more conservative than what a person might do if you give them a supercar that can go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds or 3 seconds like this car. Okay, so here now you can see it's braking a little bit because of this truck. So the truck was way over there. It was slowing because maybe it thought it would pull into my lane, but I pushed the accelerator to get it to go ahead, realizing that it didn't really have to brake so hard. So again, you're giving it input. And I could take control if I wanted to and get into this lane or get into this lane, do whatever I wanted to do, and then I just turn it back on. And you can see the voice notes here. You can use that to send them a message, tell them what happened. You just press the right wheel, send the message, and then hit once again to finish recording. So right now you can see it's waiting for all this traffic to pass before it makes a left turn. It doesn't have a left arrow, so it's looking for a gap. Here's our gap now. We got a car coming, but it's far away. And beautiful. Okay, looks like we got a pedestrian here. Okay, it's slowing down. Very good. So that could have been something where maybe I would have taken over if I felt it wasn't braking fast enough or something like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it was going to hit them, but I might take control just for comfort, just so I feel good, because I'm ultimately responsible. If I hit them, I'm the one who's going to be liable for it, and obviously nobody wants to hit anybody. So there's no penalty for disengaging. You can just disengage because you feel like it. And you can choose when to turn the software on and when to use it and when not to use it. So if there's a situation that it just doesn't do good at, just do it yourself. Maybe try the next update and see if they've improved it, but you don't need to use something if it feels unsafe or it doesn't work well. Use it in the scenarios where it's working really well, and ignore the scenarios where it isn't until it starts working. I mean, driving a Tesla is fun. You know, nothing wrong with just taking the wheel and enjoying it. You don't want to just be on FSD all the time, right? You gotta enjoy the Tesla the way it was meant to be driven. But you can see the software can handle pretty much the entire drive today. I can take over, do whatever parts I need myself. I can also use the turn signal. That's one thing I didn't really show. You can hit the turn signal and it'll change lanes to the left or the right as you instruct it to. Okay, now here's an example of something where, again, I might have to give input. It doesn't always handle these flashing red lights correctly. Nice brand new Rivian R1T in front of us. And a really old car over there. Okay, cool. It actually handled that properly. Wow, I'm surprised. Oh, see, now it's slowing again when it didn't need to. So again, I just hit the accelerator. So it's a hybrid driving experience. I don't need to hit the accelerator every time, only when what I want to do differs from what the car thinks it should do. And that gets sent back and they improve it, and then it requires less and less input over time. I can tell you from when I started using the software to now, it went from requiring a whole lot of input pretty often to now being able to do drives entirely on its own. Okay, so here it's kind of hesitating a little. It wasn't sure about this pedestrian. They're now crossing and it's waiting in the middle of the intersection. So maybe I should have braked before we got into the middle of the intersection, but there's nobody else in the intersection, so it isn't too bad. I'll send that clip up to them. So yeah, if you see it doing something like that, going into the intersection, sort of awkwardly negotiating with the pedestrian, you can just take over, wait yourself, and then turn it back on. You know, the goal isn't to get there with 0 takeovers or let the car drive. I mean, you know, it's just kind of silly. You know, be practical, drive where you're trying to drive, use the tool if it's useful, and don't fuck around too much and inconvenience other people, confuse pedestrians, make other cars wait. Don't annoy people. Just drive the car. And that's really how you should be using it. I mean, everybody's talking about this sort of, you know, Ross and Dan stop sign incident, and that was an instance there where Ross was representing FSD and he didn't stop soon enough. He saw a sign that said stop ahead and the stop sign, and he waited too long so that the clip looked really bad. And it gave them ammunition. They went and advertised it. They went and paid, they've spent $10 million advertising this stuff. And so, they said, okay, great, we've got this clip, we can advertise it now. And if he had just seen that stop ahead sign and hit the brakes, even if, well, maybe it would have recognized it, who knows? There would have been no clip. He would have said, look, this is how you supervise it and use it properly. So there's all kinds of people out there saying that this is terrible, people shouldn't be allowed to use this. They don't trust you to use it safely, to understand what it is and isn't, and actually use it in a way that benefits you, increases your safety, and has this great active safety capability that's being developed as well. So let's prove them all wrong. Let's spread the word. Let's all set a good example. Don't post stupid videos where, you're just, the software is doing something wrong, but you're just letting it. You're, not holding your hands or using your phone or doing other unsafe things. There's a lot of people pushing against this, saying you shouldn't be trusted, you can't be trusted to use technology like this. And let's prove them wrong by using it safely, setting a good example, talking to others who may not know how to use it properly or may need some guidance on sort of how to think about it. And if we can do that, then the quicker this will progress. All right, thanks all for watching and have a good weekend.